Hi and welcome to another edition of Top Tips Tuesday. This week we're selecting 5 tips for those selecting a property manager if you've got an investment property. Property manager is very important. They're protecting your asset and looking after the income coming from that asset as well. So number 1 tip is ask a current property investor that you know that's using that property manager, and not just that company but that specific branch or office that's looking after. And if they've got good feedback and been using that property manager for some time or been recommended from another professional, that's a great recommendation to have. Tip number 2 is the cheapest isn't always the best. The cheapest could actually cost you the most amount of money. So property management is a very specialised industry. It is an industry that has quite high staff turnover, so quite often these companies that offer the lowest fees don't have all those procedures in place. They aren't maximising your rental income or your deductions. They may not have a process for increasing the rental income of your property or selecting the correct tenants. So having a bad tenant can cost you a lot of money, so just be aware of that when you're comparing costs on different property managers. Number 3 is request for a dedicated contact person. So a lot of these larger property management companies have a large number of investors they're looking after, so it's really important that you have one point of contact. It can be very frustrating if you're trying to get hold of the property manager. They are very busy, they have very important roles to play, and they're quite often on the road doing property inspections, showing clients properties, etc. Having a dedicated person with a dedicated contact number is very important to always ask that question up front. And if that person leaves, what's the procedure in place to replace that person, so you have one point of contact. Number 4 is check with their experience, so the company itself, how long they've been in business. Quite often with property investment companies or property management companies, they will have a rent roll, and sometimes they will sell that rent roll to another company, so just ensure how long that company's been managing the rent roll and their level of experience, as well as your actual property manager itself. And number 5 is ask the property manager what's their process when the current lease is coming to the expiry term. Ask for their feedback and what their procedure is. So some of the things you should be looking for is they're mentioning that they're looking at the rental market. It can change over the 6 or 12 months since the last lease was put in place. So is there potential to increase the rent? What's the demand for tenancies at the moment? Is there a strong demand? So that might have an effect on whether you put the rent up or keep it the same if the current tenants have been looking after the property. And also what's their level of inquiries currently going through for that type of property as well. 5 tips, very important. If you'd like more detail about property managers, welcome to reach out, and see you next Tuesday.